At our family dinner, my mother lifted her glass and smiled like she was christening a saint. "Your sister has always been the provider," she announced, voice bright enough to reach the chandelier. Forks paused midair. Even my father clapped. The room buzzed with practiced admiration, while my phone buzzed with another overdue payment, her payment. I didn't shout. I didn't break. I just leaned back, the candlelight catching the rim of my glass, and said, "Perfect. Then she can handle the 9,200 I've been covering for her." The silence that followed didn't sound like shock. It sounded like truth, finally finding its volume. Before I tell you the rest, tell me where you're listening from, so I know I'm not the only one who's ever been humiliated at her own dinner table. Growing up, I used to think our family dinners were a performance, and Mom was the director. Every seat had a role, every smile a cue. Dad always opened with a toast about gratitude. Mom handled the script of appearances, and my sister, Elise. She was the star. I was the one who made sure the lights stayed on behind the curtain. When I was 10, Mom once told a neighbor, "Elise is our golden girl. Linda's our helper." I remember laughing along, pretending it didn't sting. That line followed me into adulthood through every family photo, every holiday, every conversation where Elise's name came up like a medal being polished. Elise, my older sister by 3 years, has always known how to look like she's winning. In high school, she was the cheer captain. In college, the one who networked her way through semesters, she barely passed. She had that effortless charisma. People wanted to believe in her. I learned early that someone had to do the believing for both of us. Mom Linda Fischer worshipped that image. Her world revolved around perception, what people said at church, who got invited to whose charity gala, what photos made the annual Christmas card. To her, love looked like applause. And my father, Richard, the silent type, believed in keeping the peace at any cost. When things got tense, he'd clear his throat and quote something about family unity, as if words could glue the cracks. So when Elise's life started slipping, jobs, lost rent, late excuses multiplying, no one said a word. "She's figuring things out," Mom would say. "Everyone needs time." The problem was, I kept paying for her time. Literally. 6 months ago, she'd called me breathless from a parking lot saying her funds were frozen. Her bank made a mistake. Her card got blocked. "Just for a month, Linda. You're the only one I trust." I'd believed her, because that's what I do. I fixed things. I co-signed. I covered the payments. And while I was cutting back on groceries to make up for it, her feed was a montage of rooftop brunches and new beginnings. At work, my phone would buzz during meetings. Late fees alerts, interest climbing. I'd send her reminders, polite at first, then pleading. She'd reply with hearts, "And you're an angel." I told myself it wasn't malice, just irresponsibility. I told myself she'd make it right. Then the family dinner invitation came. Thursday night formal attire, special announcement. Mom said it like she was producing a show. I showed up out of habit, not hope. The house smelled like candles and control, rosemary, chicken, polished silver, and the faint sweetness of denial. When Dad raised his glass and declared Elise our provider, it wasn't a surprise. It was a ritual. A story they'd rehearsed so long they forgot it wasn't real. But something in me, quiet, buried, exhausted, finally stood up. That was the night I decided I wouldn't be their helper anymore. The moment my father's words hit the table, "To Elise, our provider," something in me went very still. Everyone lifted their glasses on cue, faces glowing with polite admiration. Aunt Nora's rings clinked against her wine glass. Uncle Drew muttered, "Hear, hear," like he was toasting a promotion. Elise smiled that perfect press-ready smile, the one that could charm a loan officer or a therapist in equal measure. I kept mine fixed and shallow, the kind that hides everything. The crystal rim of my glass tapped my tooth, a small sharp ping that echoed louder than the applause. Mom reached over and patted my hand. "You look tense, honey. Be happy for your sister. She's worked so hard." Worked? I thought of the bills stacked in my inbox, the statements marked past due, the nights I sat balancing numbers that weren't even mine. Elise had worked me harder than any job ever had. Across the table, Elise leaned in her perfume, sweet and heavy. "You've been quiet all night, Linda," she said softly, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You okay? Maybe you're just overwhelmed." That word. Overwhelmed. She'd used it before every time I tried to hold her accountable. It was her favorite dismissal, sweet poison wrapped in sympathy. I watched the candlelight tremble between us. "I'm fine," I said, my voice even, but my fingers tightened around the stem of the glass until I could feel the pulse in my hand. Dad cleared his throat again, always the judge restoring order. "Your sister's been a rock for this family," he said. "We're lucky to have someone so dependable." The irony almost made me laugh. Elise's gaze flickered, maybe sensing the shift. For once, she didn't control the room. My phone buzzed under the napkin, another reminder, minimum payment due. The sound might as well have been a countdown. The table buzzed with small talk, but all I could hear was the hum in my ears, the steady roar of blood and resentment. I thought of every apology I'd swallowed, every "it's fine" I'd offered to keep peace that never included me. Then Dad lifted his glass again. To Elise, he said, smiling. That's when I exhaled slowly, leaned back, and felt the calm wash in the kind that comes before you finally stop being quiet. I remember the exact second it happened, the shift from silence to certainty. My heart wasn't racing. It had slowed steady and cold. The same way it feels when you realize the fire's not spreading anymore, it's burning clean. Dad's toast faded. Someone laughed softly, awkwardly, and Elise turned her smile toward me like a spotlight. "Linda, don't look so serious," she said. "You're making everyone nervous." I set my glass down carefully, the sound sharp against the linen. The candles flickered. For years, I'd been the one to smooth things over, to apologize when someone else broke the rules. That night, I felt the last thread of that instinct snap. "Perfect," I said, my voice calm, almost detached. "Then she can handle the $9,200 I've been paying off for her." It landed like a thunderclap. The clinking stopped. Forks froze mid-air. Even the old radiator in the corner seemed to hold its breath. Mom blinked first. "Linda," she whispered, as if volume could erase the truth. "Sweetheart, that's not dinner conversation." Elise gave a short, nervous laugh. "What are you talking about?" I reached into my bag, pulled out a thick envelope, and placed it gently in the middle of the table. "These are the statements," I said. "Payments, receipts. Every charge you made that I covered so your credit wouldn't tank." Dad's face stiffened, the mask of control slipping. "You should have come to us privately," he said. "I did," I answered. "Twice. You said not to embarrass the family." A silence opened wide and heavy. Elise stared at the envelope like it was ticking. "You're exaggerating," she tried, voice trembling now. "I told you I'd fix it." I looked at her, not angry, not even sad, just done. "Then start." No one moved. The room smelled of rosemary and smoke, the good china gleaming like witnesses. Mom stood suddenly fussing with the tablecloth. "We'll talk about this later," she said too brightly. "Let's just—" "No," I said, standing. My chair scraped against the floor, a clean, final sound. "You wanted a provider. You've got one." And then I turned toward the hallway, my reflection stretching across the polished floorboards, small, upright, unshaken. Behind me, no one called my name. 4 days after that dinner, my parents summoned me back, same table, same candles, same pretense of peace. Dad sat at the head, a folder in front of him like a court file. Mom hovered near the sideboard. Elise leaned against the wall, scrolling her phone, pretending not to care. "Sit," Dad said. I did. The air smelled of wax and leftover roast. He slid a check toward me. $200 down to the cent. "We can settle this." I didn't move. "Settle is a polite word for hush." Mom sighed. "Linda, please. You embarrassed your sister. Let's be respectful." Elise finally looked up. "You didn't have to make a scene," she said. "You could have just called." "I did," I said, "twice." She blinked. "You're so dramatic." "I'm thorough," I answered. Dad exhaled hard. "We resolved the financial part. What's left is your attitude." I reached into my bag and placed a thin stack on the table. "What's left is the truth. Statements, payments, receipts." Elise's smile faltered. "You saved those I learned from you." From the corner, a voice. "Is it true, Evan?" Her boyfriend had been sitting quietly until now. His face was pale, tired. Elise froze. "It's complicated." He nodded once, already done. "Okay." He walked out the front door, closing like a verdict. No one spoke. Dad pushed the check closer. Take it. I folded it, slipped it back. That's not forgiveness, I said. That's a receipt. He misunderstood, relieved. Good then. No, I said. Not good. Mom's voice trembled. You're making this worse. Worse than what I asked. Paying for your show while you clap for the star. The candles hissed. I gathered the copies, stood, and left. No one followed. For weeks, silence. Fischer family silence means control everyone rewriting the story before it spreads. Then one night, a message blinked in my inbox. Subject high. I think your sister scammed me. Her name was Tara. She'd worked for Elise's so-called women in tech startup that never existed. She sent me everything: messages, invoices, screenshots. Elise had recruited young designers, promised equity, then vanished. I read until dawn, heart hammering, a strange, calm building underneath. 2 days later, Evan showed up again holding a small drive. She left this, he said. You'll want to see it. Inside was a spreadsheet titled Bridge Loans, a list of people, amounts, notes, family, friends, coworkers. Beside my name, Linda, $9 and $200, cleared, backstop. The word made my stomach turn. That night, I created a folder, sorted every record, and built a timeline. I wasn't planning revenge. I was documenting history. A week later, a local startup forum posted an anonymous article, The Founder Who Faked Empowerment. No names, but every detail screamed Elise. Replies flooded in. She did this to me, too. Screenshots, emails, pictures. The thread caught fire. Mom called, voice shaking. Tell me this isn't you. It's not, I said. But it's true. Then stop it. I can't. You won't. She snapped and hung up. By morning, Elise's potential employer released a statement offer, withdrawn, investigation ongoing. Dad showed up at my apartment that evening. Older, slumped. He held out an envelope. $15,000. To cover the rest. I didn't take it. Money isn't what I need, I said. Accountability is. He looked at the floor. I thought I was keeping the peace. No, I said quietly. You were keeping the performance. He nodded once, almost relieved to hear it spoken aloud. On Monday at 9 a.m., I pressed publish. The article was titled, The Golden Daughter Family Silence, A Sister's Lies, and the Cost We Paid. It was clean, factual, impossible to spin. The dinner, the debt, the fake company, the victims, the bridge loan file. I signed my name at the bottom and closed my laptop. Within an hour, it spread. By noon, 70,000 shares. Some people called me brave. Others called me cruel. I didn't read most of it. I just let the truth breathe. That evening, my parents' email arrived. We're deeply hurt by your decision to make private matters public. For now, it's best we end all contact. They were still writing scripts. They just didn't have an audience anymore. I sat by the window, city lights flickering below, and felt something I hadn't in years. Quiet, not forced, not fearful. Just quiet that belonged to me. The story was out there. The performance was over. The morning after the article went live, the world felt unnervingly normal. Same coffee smell, same traffic hum outside my window, but underneath everything had shifted. For once, I didn't wake up checking due dates or family group chats. The air in my apartment felt wider, lighter. By noon, the headlines had changed from gossip to impact. Women who'd worked with Elise came forward publicly, confirming every detail. Her name trended beside words like fraud and exploitation. My inbox filled with messages, not hate, but gratitude. Thank you for saying what we couldn't, one wrote. You just saved someone else. Mom called again, voice cracked thin. She's broken Linda. She can't leave the house. She's facing consequences, I said. That's not the same as being broken. She's still your sister. I know, I whispered, and that's what makes it hurt. There was silence, then the sound of her quiet crying. I didn't hang up. I just let it exist between us, the weight, the grief, the cost of truth. That evening, I drove past their house. The porch light was off for once. No dinner chatter, no glow from the dining room where everything had unraveled. I didn't stop. I just looked through the windshield at the windows that used to frame my family's perfect picture and saw what I'd never seen before, peace in absence. When I got home, I opened my laptop. The folder I'd once labeled evidence now sat renamed closure. I backed it up to the cloud, encrypted untouchable. Not to hurt anyone, not to gloat, just to remember. Sometimes justice isn't loud. It's a clean breath after years of swallowing smoke. I didn't destroy my family, I just stopped being their silence. They called it betrayal. I called it release. For years, I'd carried their secrets like a second skin proof that love meant loyalty, that silence meant strength. But silence doesn't keep you safe. It just buries you quietly under other people's comfort. When I finally spoke, I didn't burn the bridge. I built a boundary. Now, when people ask about my family, I don't flinch. I tell them the truth. Some stories end when you stop editing them to please everyone else. I still don't know if my parents will ever call again or if Elise will ever say she's sorry. Maybe that's not the point, because peace isn't the applause after the chaos, it's the quiet that stays when the noise is gone. If you've ever drawn a hard line with your family, tell me, what did it cost you?